talking about the Treehouse Residence Hall in Boston, featured finalist in this year's competition. What's the untold story behind this? Because this is an unusual looking skyscraper, certainly with, perhaps not your traditional inhabitants.
The Treehouse was a wonderful combination of different things that needed to happen, I think, not just for the Massachusetts College of Art and Design, but for the city of Boston, which has traditionally been a very conservative city that has been looking to be more expressive but hasn't found the proper architectural extension to do that. There are a few really great modernist buildings. Henry Cobb did one of them in the city that people love because it has a nice connection to the sky and to the changing colors of the environment. The Treehouse is on the Avenue of the Arts, and the students of Massachusetts College of Art and Design lived in what was called the Darth Vader building. It was a black glass modernist building from the 80s. And they wanted a more transparent understanding of the production of art that they do and the craft of art that they make. And they desired an artful expression of that. So we looked for something that was artful and organic, and we used a painting as a metaphor, a vehicle to take us to someplace that we wouldn't normally go to, because our hands will always draw what they're used to drawing. And we, particularly in this project, but in many projects we do, we try to have our brains tell our hands to stop drawing and to wait and get new inspirations. And in this case, we got inspirations from students, from the community, and it ended up in a building that is very different than any other building in the city of Boston. It was described as the most interesting high-rise in years by Robert Campbell, who was a critic for the Globe. So we liked that the process took us someplace else. It was a real exploration with the client, the faculty, the students, all on board. And so finally, I think there is a building along the Avenue of the Arts that is expressive and artful, more exuberant than most architecture is allowed to be.
Is designing a building like this and tailoring it so much to the residents for which it's created, is it necessarily more expensive or a more expensive proposition to do that, or were there efficiencies in this as a result?
The design process is more expensive. The actual construction is not more expensive. If we're spending more time doing outreach with people and then trying to get that information and craft it into a vision that we then present back to them, where they can say, well, you guys listened to us and you came up with something that was much more exciting than we had thought, but we feel our ownership is part of it. That is where there is expense. The project that we presented today was a state school project, and it was on a state school budget for a high-rise building. So there was nothing extraordinarily expensive about it. In fact, as far as high-rises go, we do lots of multifamily luxury developments. And this project was less expensive than most of those, but in the range of where we see high-rise construction.
The literature for this project refers to a lean construction method. What is that, and what were some of the advantages that came out of that?
So the lean construction process was adopted by Suffolk Construction, and it was about 4 months into the project after we got battered by some terrible snowstorms that put us behind schedule by almost 4 weeks. And the lean construction process is a way of thinking and working with the subcontractors so that they categorize where in half-day increments every contractor, subcontractor is going to be working on the building. And they have what's called a pull chart, and every morning all the subcontractors get together. They agree that they're going to be working on this floor and then this floor and then this floor, so that there is not a lot of overlap between trades. They only bring in the material that they're going to be using in 4-hour increments, so the site, the laydown is very, very efficient. And they all agree to work together rather than, the guys doing the framing doing their work, the drywallers doing their work. So in the end, Suffolk was able to reduce the schedule by 2 months. And so we ended up opening the building 2 months earlier, after being a month late in the first third of the project, 2 months earlier, and then the building was able to be rented out as hotel space for graduating students and their families in the spring who are visiting the city were, because it was available in May as opposed to available in late July. So lean construction is just a very organized way of getting the subcontractors to bring only the material that they need for half-day increments onto the site and to coordinate with the other subcontractors. It was the cleanest site I've ever seen, not just the site, but within the building. So it was a safer site as well. So nothing wrong there. It was really well organized.
One of the stories here is the legendary pajama floor, which I think probably speaks very well of the design process and the input that you got. Tell me the story of that.
So the pajama floor was the students asking for a way to move social space that they would share as residents of the building up higher in the building so they did not have to go down to the ground floor. That was a more public shared space. So we took things that we might traditionally have in the ground floor of the building, laundry rooms, lounge areas, fitness center, and other functions, and we brought it up. So this is significant for all high-rises because we're all trying to figure out how to create community higher up in the buildings, either on multiple different levels at the top of the building or on the second or third floor. So that floor ended up being the most used floor in the building. It's a very, very busy, dynamic floor, and the thought was that the students could go down to that floor in their pajamas, not have to get dressed up and meet people from the general public who are in the cafe. And the joke of it is, of course, Mass Art students go everywhere in their pajamas. So they go to classes in their pajamas. So we still call it the pajama floor, but there's no real clothing requirement for that floor that's any different than anywhere else.
I imagine that this building is really a good advertisement for the university and helps them attract students.
It's a wonderful expression for an art school. We hear more and more often that students are choosing to go to Mass Art, not just because of the programs that they have, but finally there is an expression of those programs in built form. So students and their prospective students and their parents come and visit, and they see this beautiful building that is expressive and is creating dialogue in the world of art and architecture. And that's really the intention of that building after housing students in a inexpensive way. It was to create a dialogue in the city of Boston for the Massachusetts College of Art and Design and to have them be at the center of that discussion.
In that dialogue, how is the exterior of the building being discussed? Because, well, it looks like wood just to the uninitiated looking at the picture, but what is the description that's being talked about?
Well, there are positive descriptions and there are less positive descriptions. The mostly positive descriptions are from people who understand that the concept is a tree house and that students are living in this tree house, and there's activity at every level, just like a tree house would have. There's a sense of secrecy, there's a sense of play, and they make that connection. A lot of people think that it is wood and not.
Which of course it's not.
Metal panel, that's right. We had looked at using terracotta because terracotta has a warmth to it and a richness and diversity in colors that you can have. Unfortunately, terracotta you cannot move in and out the way we were doing to create the bark-like quality of that building. Some folks refer to it as the Lego building because they think that it's made out of plastic pieces of Lego. But the idea really is they're talking about it. And it is such a contrast from the existing building that they have, which everyone calls the Darth Vader building, which is a sinister feeling building. It's dark, it's impenetrable, and it's very fortress-like. So this is an exuberant building. It is playful, it is bold, and it is expressive. So just that amount of conversation that happens at the street level is wonderful. Occasionally I do get comments from architecture professors who are walking by and give me an earful, and I always carry a little swear jar for those folks.
What are you hoping for in terms of the future, in terms of what this building will inspire other creations in this part of town?
Well, process is the most important to us as a design firm. So if we kind of hope other people mirror our process. As I mentioned in my presentation today, we have a design pyramid in the office that is very collaborative, hyper-collaborative, I would say, and the design pyramid is not the traditional design pyramid of the strong architecture firm. It's purposely condensed so it has a broader base. So if I think architects and designers and clients demand that they get a broader constituency at the conceptual level of their buildings, then just by the very nature of reaching out and getting creative input from a larger group of people, I think we will have different architecture. I think, and I said this morning, that the practice of architecture has to move away from the single heroic architect figure to a strong vision that is devised by many people. If it is really going to have purchase in communities, especially in urban communities where we're trying to bring the community feel and process and richness up into buildings, then you have to, I think, bring that usual community outreach, just as if you were designing a park, into the process of designing a building. That's what I would like to have happen, not a stylistic replication, but more a process replication that will create different styles.